Chovanec in on this. He's followed China for years at Silvercrest Asset Management. He's taught over there, lived over there, and follows certainly the economic back and forth between these two countries for a long time. So, Patrick, what do you take away from where we are now? The thinking going in was that, maybe things are starting to ease up a little bit. American business is going to be more welcome in China again. What about after yesterday? What do you take away from it?
I don't know whether it solved any substantive problems. There is still a lot of areas of tension between the United States and China that remain. It did, as your reporter indicated, open up lines of communication that had been kind of alarmingly silent over the past couple of years. When Biden took office, their first meeting up in Alaska with the Chinese went very badly. And the message from the Chinese was essentially, here's a list of things that we're upset about, and if you're not going to fix them, we have nothing to talk about. And although the two leaders have presumably talked a couple different times at meetings like this, the opportunity to really sit down and work out some of these issues and begin talking about them, that's a priority to avoid some of the miscommunication that could potentially, or lack of communication that could potentially really lead to a crisis. And that's what people have been increasingly concerned about.
Yeah, that's why the military-to-military communications, even though we went into this meeting thinking we would get something on that, the fact that we did, that is important for that very reason. The last thing you want is some sort of a miscommunication. On the economic front, I want to put up on the screen here the list of some of these CEOs who met with Xi Jinping last night. And of course, the likes of a Tim Cook at Apple has a big relationship. But this is a who's who. Larry Fink at BlackRock. Get to Elon Musk in a moment. He was supposed to be on a panel today with Mark Benioff of Salesforce. Boeing, Gilead Sciences is also represented on there. The panel, for whatever reason, Musk had to cancel. John Kerry replaced him. We could talk about Musk in particular, but in general, these CEOs, Tim Cook and others, by the way, no Mark Zuckerberg there. They can't operate. So a lot of tech CEOs, even though it was in the area where tech is so big, didn't show up. What about these CEOs, American CEOs, and their future in China? Is it changing for the better or the worse here in 2023 compared to the last few years? What do you think?
U.S. businesses find themselves in a difficult spot right now because of the tensions in U.S. and China. On the one hand, they do have very real concerns about China's treatment of foreign businesses, their intellectual property, all sorts of other things. They want the U.S. government's support in that respect. They also don't want to be seen as disloyal in a situation where the U.S. and China have serious differences. On the other hand, China is a very important market for a lot of them. And they have to walk very carefully among these tensions and try to keep that market open. So, I think having them there, especially the ones in the tech space, because they're at the pointy end of the spear. They're exactly where the United States is cracking down with sanctions, restricting their ability to sell chips and other things to China. A lot of those businesses don't like the implications of those sanctions, but they also don't want to be caught astray of the U.S. government either.
Yeah, I guess I would ask you one. We only have time maybe for one more question, so I'll ask a big picture question. I mentioned Musk, and his business with Tesla is very, very important to him in China. And again, he wasn't on that panel today, so we didn't hear more from him. Maybe we'll hear more about that. The big picture question I would ask is this. You have a lot of experience in China, as I said, living there, teaching there, doing business there. I'm filling in for Elizabeth Vargas on her program tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern here, and we're going to do and talk more about a story of an American businessman who's still being held and has been held for over a decade in China. So these types of things still happen. They don't get a lot of attention. I don't know how much it came up yesterday. Would you personally feel safe doing business in China right now?
I think you have to be very careful because the tensions are very real. And it's not just foreigners who feel concerned about the shift in the environment in China. It's people in China actually feel increasingly negative about the direction that the country is taking. Certainly in the upper class, the business elite, but I think it goes down even below that. And that's one of the reasons maybe Xi is a little bit more open to trying to thaw relationships with the United States, because he sees that, not everybody's necessarily happy with the degree of isolation that China has been encountering in the world because of some of the policies that he has pursued.
Right. And, his economy is not going as great. Things aren't going as great in the economy, especially the property sector, which maybe entices him as well. All right, Patrick, thank you for coming on today. We'll continue this conversation. It's good to see you. Thanks so much for watching. Just go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.